Pops, no toka Nekane, no toka Tupac Enrique Costa. And we're sitting here in the Naucali Embassy of Indigenous Peoples. Welcome back, Mike. Good to see you again.
Same here, brother.
We know you've been fighting some health issues, and we know you've been fighting some community issues. This is nothing new. We're going back a long time, no?
Yeah, 20 years.
But we just want to catch up with you today. We got a couple of things to jump through the fence, and one of them happened to be this this particular issue of Mr. Obama and Ms. Brewer. Do you want to say a few words about that? What do you see?
Most definitely. This is the worst part of disrespect I've ever seen of a public official. This governor has shown us the distaste for recognizing a higher office which happened to be held by an African American. I have watched Governor Brewer since she was a legislator. She has exhibited her bigoted behavior for the last 20 years that I know of, and I think it's an insult to all groups that are supporters or non-supporters of Mr. Obama. The greater injustice is the things that she stands for, that she is promoting as something to stand up and say she's about greatness, which she has done along with her Republican cronies. I'm actively involved right now trying to get a rally together to show our disdain for what Ms. Brewer did, Governor Brewer, with our President, Mr. Obama, and as it is connected to the work that we're doing right now with the Civil Rights Movement.
Yeah, and talking about that, you know, we've been just this morning, we're talking about that bridge in Selma, no?
Right.
And there's the continuation of this fight. And one of the significant points, clarification we have always been making now is that Martin Luther King, after Selma, he said, we have emerged from the era of civil rights to the era of human rights.
Right.
And we know that over the past couple of years here in Arizona, we've been fighting the 1070 law, the different legislation, but all these boil down to the same thing. From Selma to Phoenix, from civil rights to human rights,
right,
indigenous rights and the rights of Mother Earth. We're really talking about fighting against a system of apartheid, no?
Yes.
American apartheid.
Right.
Going all the way back to 1492. Can you give us your share on that one?
Well, I'm glad you brought it up to speed to that part, because the indigenous movement really goes back to the civilization of the Egyptians and the Moors, along with the Aztecs and the Mayans, bringing the indigenous people up to speed. And as it's taken in this book also, the first 100 years of Arizona blacks,
yeah,
it illustrates from Mr. Harrison's writing when this was the early territory, and we were the new residents because the Indian was already here. But the white man came here with his colonialism, yeah, and wanted to continue the apartheid behaviors because cotton was king. Right. Cotton was the #1 industry. And for the African American just only being 150 years out of slavery, we still have some of those behaviors. And the civil rights movement is now being impacted by that 50-year-old behavior that is coming back into our midst. And we can't allow that to happen.
Well, speaking of that, you know, you were part of the delegation that received Mr. Bruce Boynton, you know, the first Freedom Rider. He got all the way here from Selma to Phoenix just last week, right?
Right.
But we see that the fight is still going on, and then the fire has not died out. More than anything, is ready to get fired up once again.
Absolutely.
And so we know also part of that fight is making these connections and understandings. For example, when Danny Glover was here, we asked Danny Glover, Danny, what about this reconciliation between Buffalo Soldiers and the Native Nations? Isn't this something that could happen to heal and reignite our humanity and not be fighting on the side of colonialism? Right. Let's fight for humanity, no?
Right. Danny is going to be back here February 8th and 9th at the African American Legislative Day, where that is one of my major concerns to express to him as well, because the connection of what our people were drugged into was not really our fight. It was because
it's the same like when we got took to Vietnam, right? Those were not our enemies, the Vietnamese.
That's right.
And that's what Martin Luther King, he stood up against the Vietnam War.
Absolutely.
The same thing at this time now, and then back there, the Buffalo people, the Buffalo nations, those original nations of the territory.
Right.
And just like today, we can't be fighting the wars for the corporations in Iraq.
Right. Absolutely.
So we're still in the same fight, but we got to get our people to...
Absolutely. Our brothers and sisters are coming home injured, maimed, disgruntled, and they wondered, where are we going to go from here? And they got to come back and pick up their lives, pick up their families, trying to maintain from all the violence and all the war impacted them. It is sad to see that being a part of the issue, but the greater issue is this governor and the architects of the wrong end of the civil rights issue. SB 1070 is wrong. It is going to be fought down in the courts. The African American community is now coming on board, along with the great wrongs that are being done from Washington, D.C. to here, just as the Freedom Riders brought it together with the churches and political groups and stuff. We got to resurrect the same thing. Yeah. We got to be a part of that same freedom movement for humanity and the indigenous people. And I'm glad to be here this morning.
And Mother Earth too, no, Mike?
Absolutely.
Mother Earth too, because we know you're one of the veterans in the local area here from the environmental justice movement, and I know your comments just a couple weeks ago too. There's an event taking place or beginning to emerge that's called the Nationhood and Sustainability.
Right.
But it's being driven by the indigenous folks, the indigenous nations, the African American, the communities most impacted by the pollution and contamination.
Yeah, absolutely.
So could you say a little bit about that bird on fire?
Right. The bird on fire consists of really dealing with the environmental racism that is going on here in Arizona and around the country with our minority communities. Corporations that have moved into our communities, ripped out our community and brought in polluting companies that are not good neighbors to us. We're dealing with more advanced asthma, respiratory infections, cancers that are riddling South Phoenix and taking away our loved ones at an alarming rate. One of my good friends just about died yesterday of respiratory problems, which led to a heart attack. And never in the history of Arizona have they seen so much chemical devastation, but it has ran rampant because we have not had the checks and balances to protect Mother Earth in the aspect of the law. The law has been broken over and over again, and if we don't stand up for the indigenous people, then we will be like that. Mother Earth is the critical part. Yeah. See, we are the caretakers of Mother Earth, as my comments were a couple weeks ago at that forum, was that we're doing a pitiful job of protecting Mother Earth with our water rights and our air rights, and we are abusing those rights because we're not promised tomorrow, but we won't exist much longer if we don't protect Mother Earth.
We got to light it up.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, sir.
We'll have another one soon.
We'll be back soon.
Very good.